Okay. So, yoga, Tai Chi, and Qigong, they sometimes are considered exercise. They're considered things you do. They have been termed mindful movement. More recently, they've been termed contemplative movement. And there's one other newer term, but we'll stick with mindful and contemplative movement. And there is so much science behind what goes into and what you can get out of these practices that it's almost mind boggling. So, we're going to start with yoga and what the evidence suggests. One thing that I do want to make a point of saying is that I do get a number of people who approach me and say, I'm not sure if I can practice yoga because they feel it is a religion and they have concerns that it conflicts with their spiritual and religious beliefs. And yoga is part of some religion, but yoga itself is not a religion. So my suggestion in those realms is to look at the separate religion from spiritual. For many people, they are the same, but they're all often different for another group of people. So I do not like to mix religion into because I do feel yoga is separate from where I am coming from in this perspective. But we are talking about body, mind, and spirit, which is also where we get Tai Chi and Qigong to come into place. And it's also where we get the biopsychosocial spiritual model. So yoga itself, we're looking at health, we're looking at wellness, and we're looking at stabilizing our mind, our emotions. And coming off of this last discussion about sound and how, there's different types of sound that are going to affect people differently, different vibrations. Yoga is a gigantic umbrella, and there are so many types and subtypes that you might have only tried one or two types and not known, or styles rather, and you might need to keep kind of digging through things to see if there's a particular style that meets you where you're at. From a social and personal perspective, yoga has almost like the, not to go back to religion, but almost like the 10 commandments type kind of built into its backbone. So it's looking at ethical and moral compasses into how we live our lives. In the spirituality aspect, and again, not religion, we can even get into looking at, where is it that I feel my greatest connection? What's my life's philosophy? We practice a sport to get better at a sport, maybe for a competition. So what are we doing when we practice yoga? We're practicing to get better at life, at being more resilient. So the technologies that are in the toolbox are listed here. There are so many layers that go into yoga, and most of us really only see the asana or the physical practice or the exercise piece. So is yoga exercise? Well, instead of doing just a leg lift or a push-up or a machine, we're looking at connecting the movement of the body with the fluctuations of the mind and then intertwining the rhythm of the breath. The breath is probably the most important part because it directly regulates our autonomic nervous system. So the breath becomes that tool in which we can find parasympathodominance and really pull us out of the fight or flight, the sympathetic stress mode that we tend to live in, and not just vacation and or visit every once in a while, but learn to live in, which is not healthy. We need the balance of both. So the breath is usually the most important thing, but it's what comes last because it's so challenging. So moving meditation, it's more than just your strength and posture. You're looking at the inward attention. And if there's one thing that we know about, we'll look at chronic pain, for example, and I'm sure all of you can just sit with how much chronic pain is a part of our medical system right now. From the most recent research, the best and most important approach to addressing chronic pain, at least from a rehabilitative standpoint, is that we have to enhance our interoception, which is our self-awareness. And only then can we start to make shifts in how we retrain and reframe the brain to accept and move through chronic conditions, say chronic back pain. So here we are with the first mention of inward attention with yoga. We're looking at recognizing habitual thought patterns. These are things that constantly pull us into the stress mode. And we're looking at making the mind more flexible, not just the body. So asana is the physical practice. The rehabilitative term for exercise is therapeutic exercise, abbreviated as TheraX. And Are they the same? Well, when you read through these sections, they're not. One of the things that stands out to me is intention. When we talk about Tai Chi and Qigong, intention is everything. As a healer, when you walk into a room to see a patient who is in need of your services, what is your intention for being there? We always have to be careful not to live in the ego. Same within our yoga mats or on our yoga chairs or wherever we're practicing. It's the individual who needs to set the intention, and we're there to supercharge it, to enhance it. And if I'm distracted by my computer, my technology, my phone, I'm not giving them my best supercharge. When we're in our practice, if we're in our process of doing, experiencing yoga, we need to know what our intention is, right? So is it to help with the body part, or is it help to calm the mind, or where are we, right? And yoga should be unforced, not striving, not a competition. We should be curious. We start to look at, where is my breath? Where is my mind? Did it wander? That's normal. Bring it back to the present moment. So a successful yoga practice includes some type of meditation, and that's a tricky term. What is meditation? It doesn't mean sitting with an empty mind in silence. For some, it might, for others, but it doesn't have to be that. Breath work, as I'd mentioned, one of the most important things, and yet seemingly the most challenging. And then there's a physical practice, whether it's sitting or actual movement. And then we start to connect all of that with the biopsychosocial spiritual model of care. And that's really where healthcare is at, or is going to. Hopefully, we're all familiar with that. The spiritual part just got added on not that long ago, and there is a relatively recent study that is just phenomenal about the spiritual aspect of care in terms of healthcare. There is so much evidence with yoga, I cannot even begin to explain it all. Lots of my doctorate work focused specifically on the benefits of yoga in relation to what's considered traditional healthcare, particularly emphasizing chronic conditions like chronic nonspecific low back pain. So we have all these cardiovascular benefits. We have improvements in our respiratory function. We have improvements in regulating the autonomic nervous system. We're looking at enhancing our endurance, our intensity. We have improved motor function, anxiety, depression, our mood is enhanced. Now, if you add nutrition and awareness of changes in nutrition to the practice of yoga, now we're really getting somewhere when we're looking at our mental health state. We have positive findings in yoga with epilepsy, neurological diseases, a stroke and MS, Alzheimer's. There's just so much. So when we go to the contemplative movement as a whole, and there's a lot of things that fall under contemplative movement. There might be 500, and you just need to focus on one. Maybe you'll be lucky enough and find more than one that suits you. But with yoga, qigong, and tai chi, most of the studies find that you will get interoceptive awareness, proprioceptive awareness, and kinesthetic awareness. So the interoception feeds into self-awareness, which helps us address chronic conditions like chronic pain. Meditation and mindfulness. Most studies relate directing the attention to the bodily sensations as being so positive. It's important to know how to connect with your body. There is more information on the neurological findings, dementia, disease link with high cholesterol, how regular meditation practices, and yoga could be just the practice more in a meditative state than a physical posture state. So the terminology is challenging when we say, oh, go do yoga. It's a big heading. So what subtype are we looking at? The chronic pain evidence is phenomenal. Weight loss, there's studies on this, fatigue, self-esteem. You get the point that I could go on and on and on. So when we look at how to yoga, we're looking at breath, we're looking at movement, we're looking at breathing. The movement does not have to be large pieces of movement. We just need to know that there is a physical component that is part of the bigger picture. So the challenge I have when teaching is that there's so much with alignment and technique, and then what's going on in your body. Are you having pain in the back or in the neck, or is a suggested posture not a good fit for you? So we have to individualize it, just like we're looking at personalizing medicine, just like we look at individualizing a sound therapy session. We're looking at individualizing a good fit with a contemplative movement practice in our bodies. We need to look at alignment. We don't need to live there harshly, but we need to look at it. And we must remember you gain the way you train. So if you're training in a dysfunctional way, you will gain in a dysfunctional way. Coordinating the breath with movement, anything to do with the breath is so challenging. But the more we practice, the more awareness we have of the challenges and we practice. And we don't set ourselves up for failure by negative speaking and being harsh to ourselves, we're going to get progress. And then intention. I keep coming back to intention. Intention matters. So rather than do a physical movement with dabble into a physical movement with yoga, I'm going to take us into the Tai Chi and the QiGong because they are so similar. They are almost parallel. They come from different systems. In the yogic system, when we look at the shared science in that realm, we're looking at chakras. When we get into QiGong and Tai Chi, we're looking at traditional Chinese medicine, and we're with meridians and acupoints and vessels. And they say similar, if not identical things, but use a different language. So Qigong and Tai Chi, they are also considered part of the energy arts. So much like sound, we have energy, we have vibration. Everything is energy, and energy will always seek a balance. And that's incredible wisdom in that, because if we are tipping our scales too heavy at one end, we can usually experience will tell us that there's going to be a massive shift and it will be big. We want to see if with these practices and contemplative movement, if we can not have these big shifts, but rather look at things more like a teeter-totter, a seesaw, right? Where we have a nice fulcrum in the center, and then we just balance a little from side to side. And if we balance a little more, a little more, a little more, and we slowly rebound from it, our resilience, then we're going to avoid those harsh shifts. And that's how our autonomic nervous system works. So going back to parallels. So Qigong is part of traditional Chinese medicine. It's a healing technique. It uses meditation, it uses controlled breathing, it uses movement. So Qi is another term for the life force. In yoga, the term is prana. So prana and Qi, that is what moves in us and through us and around us. And it starts to sound a little sci-fi and Star Wars like, but these things are rooted in these older practices and traditions. Now, in Western, if we say the blood or the breath, there's different types of qi, and one type of qi would relate a little bit more to blood and one a little more to breath. They have different densities, but we're still speaking along the same language, and gong is just translated as to master or to cultivate. So we're doing energy work when we're doing qigong. Qigong does differ from Tai Chi, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. When we look at the Complementary and Integrative Health National Center, the benefits of practicing Tai Chi are listed here, and there are a lot. Tai Chi, in fact, is as good as the gold standard for osteoarthritis in the knees. The gold standard happens to be physical therapy. Practicing Qigong can help with some chronic neck pain. There's mixed issues in that study. They both work incredibly well with anxiety. We have more evidence that takes a look at just to say, just trust me. I don't want to say that, but I want to say there is evidence and we need to look to the literature. And this is from a study that's looking at what's in writing from 1993 through 2007. We're in this particular reference, there's 507 studies published between 1958 and 2013. You're looking at 94% of these studies have positive effects, 5.1% are uncertain, and 0.8% are negative. So to say, well, it probably can't hurt you to try it, that's one of those phrases that, yeah, it's probably going to have some benefit, even if we just take 5 minutes and sit for the moment and have an experience where we're trying to get out of our heads and look at our breath and become a little more aware of the fluctuations and the movements and what's going on in our body. we're going to have positive things to say about it. We're not going to have negative things to say about it. There should be positive, or maybe some people would be like, oh, I don't know. So there's also studies that show that you can have a longer life, a better quality of life if this is part of your routine, your practice. Blood pressure goes down, cardiovascular health improves, joint pain improves. The list goes on and on. There are neurological benefits. We're multitasking in a mindful manner, and that is so very true. It's a lot of layers that you can add if you are able to, and if not, then you just back off, find the level that you need to be at, and you practice there. You know, in China, when people are diagnosed with cancer, they're generally recommended Qigong as a piece of what their treatment and interventions are, and they have Qigong hospitals. Cancer is one of the bigger diagnoses or pathological conditions where you see studies with Qigong. So let me step back and tell you about Qigong and Tai Chi. Qigong is the grandfather of Tai Chi. So Qigong is the energy work, and we tend to look at pressure points, acupoints, meridian balance. Tai Chi may be Qigong, or it may be based in the martial external art in self-defense. So not all Tai Chi actually has the internal healing benefits. Some of it is literally based on what looks so beautiful, and you see a hand come like this, and movements go, and instead of it being like, oh, I'm moving the energies from the middle dantian and outward, it's like I am striking the center of your head, and I'm taking your neck, and I'm, you know, and arm bars and things like that. So you have your Tai Chi that can be destructive, and you have your Tai Chi that can be constructive. Qigong in and of itself is constructive. So when we look at internal and external, the martial arts are internal and external. Qigong and part of the Tai Chi is internal. So externally, we might think, oh, that's hard, that's work. Well, internally, we might think, oh, that must be soft and easy, and it's quite challenging, but in a way where we have to apply concepts where we're not overly engaging or, you know, trying to win the race or be the best. We need to find a nice balance of not too much work, just enough work, and that takes us to the concept of tensegrity. And that is where the physical benefits of Qigong live, in tensegrity. And that is just enough muscle contraction to hold the shape, but no more. And that's a challenge. So Qigong is interesting because it traditionally is passed down by word of mouth. And so maybe a village or a region in one part of China learned a particular form one way, and then in another part, they learned it maybe with a few tweaks, or if you can imagine, as the years go by and things get passed down, what you get maybe 3-4 decades later is a little varied from what was taught previously. So if you're YouTubing Qigong and you see, wow, this style is telling me to turn my hands this way, and this style said it's the same thing, but my hands are turning this way. It's just these slight variances that change through the years. The importance of mindful movement. When the flow of energy is blocked, it causes low energy and illness. So in the most simple terms, if there is a blockage, you're going to have a variation from the state of ease to a state of dis-ease. So in the simplest terms, what we're trying to do in Qigong is use no contact pressure point alignment to unblock things, or to keep our acupoint open and flowing. And if you think of this like waterways, that's what we're doing. We don't want to build dams. We want to keep the water flowing, the chi flowing. So the theory is, if you can open the acupoints and allow chi to flow, you will move from a state of dis-ease to a state of ease. And it's not something that you do. It is something that you experience. So we have to look at, if I just do all of this stuff and do, then I'll be great. You have to experience it. So we have to get ourselves out of the sympathetic dominance and find our balanced state. So energy is something we work a lot with. And a couple of these slides are in here just to make sure that it's not, as you all hopefully know, it's just not that easy, right? So the chi flows best when we have this relaxation, when we have tensegrity, not overly inviting tension. We look to the yin and the yang with that balance of the sympathetic and parasympathetic. There is electrical current that we have a frequency, a vibration, much like sound, that we're looking to regulate and balance. We do have studies that help show our frequencies, that we can see changes in our acupoints when we are placing a hand with our intention set, whether we are placing a needle or placing maybe our thumb for acupressure. We can make changes in our vibration and our frequency. So the other piece that I'm not going to get too detailed in, but just to show, we can break Qigong down into looking at yang, at yin, at the elements, at the directions and sounds. So each direction has a sound, a healing sound. Each meridian is associated with an element. There's an element chart where we have the cycle of destruction and the cycle of creation. We want to work in the cycle of creation. It's a lot, but it's a beautiful thing when we look at how we're trying to move like water, let things and our energies flow like water. As I said at the beginning, Qi has different, it's like water in 3 different forms, solid, liquid, gas. Qi has different densities. And the densities live in these 3, if you think of these giant Rubbermaid storage containers, the head, the heart, and the low belly, the upper, the middle, and the lower dantians, and that's where our energy collects. What is sitting up in the head is the upper dantian. It's the lightest density Qi, and it's our spiritual realm. In the heart space is our medium density Qi, and it is the head. And below the navel and in the low belly region is the most dense, and that's our physical Qi. So before any Qigong practice, I like to start off with a Qigong massage. So it's self-massage. And we generally do, or I generally teach some different pressure points. I do like, if I'm doing a particular practice, I like to find the main acupoints and we massage into those so we can connect with those with our intention during our movement. So as you're sitting here, if you can just take your fingers to your temples. This is the Tai Yang spot. And if you place maybe the middle finger, maybe the index and middle, maybe you want 3 fingers, but just gently press in and start to make small circular movements. And they need to be slow and thoughtful. And if your legs are crossed, uncross them. And if your feet aren't in contact with the ground, place the feet in contact with the ground. And if you can imagine at the very top of your head, a string is lifting your head up, let the head lift so that the spine lengthens, but it is not forced into straightening. And now reverse the direction of your circles. So this helps us start to integrate awareness into our body and opening this acupoint. From here, if you release the hands and look at the open palms, if you make a soft fist and let your fingertips touch the palm, notice where your middle finger touches. Place your thumb of your other hand on that point and begin to massage in small circular motions. This is Lao Gong or pericardium 8. If your knuckles do not touch that space of your palm, imagine and visualize where it might. And if you are restricted in applying any overpressure because you physically can't do that, visualize and imagine. There's studies about the power of the mind and imagination where we get benefit. Reverse that direction. So Lao Gong, pericardium 8, this is the main point we use in Qigong. This is the main point we use in our Western medical practice, laying on of the hands. When we touch, when we place our hands to assess, this energy point is involved. Switch hands, go to the opposite side, make a soft fist. Notice where the middle finger touches the palm. Find that place and begin to massage. So acupoints are about the size of a $50. So as long as your intention is set, you don't have to worry about being perfect. If you're in the zone and your intention is set, you are going to get benefit. Reverse that direction. So we put gloves on our hands when it's cold to keep our heat in. Although we have heat that can be released from different areas in the hand, this is our major point. So sometimes I just like to think of this like a video game character that can push and pull, because that is how we push and pull our Qi in the practice of Qigong. So we'll release from here. And I'm going to have you bring your attention to your feet. So if you can place your feet in contact with the earth. The practice of Qigong, if you're barefoot and you're outside, it just amplifies everything, but that's not always accessible. But if you think about your foot, and I want you to think about a point on the center of your foot, and then if you bisected your foot lengthwise, like this picture shows at the bottom, there's a picture that shows Yongquan, where this point is. And this point is actually not dead center. It's about an inch away from the center of the body. So between the knuckle of the big toe and the pinky toe, that's the kidney 1 acupoint. And it's scientifically related to the sympathetic part of our nervous system. And if you drop down from the middle, just in front of where the heel or the calcaneus is, this is associated with the parasympathetic part of our nervous system. So if you rock your feet front to back, if you maybe lift the heels and then lift the toes, you're amping up and down your autonomic nervous system when your intention is set. So lifting of the heels and you're pressing into the balls of the feet, you know that phrase, stay on your toes, here's your sympathetic nervous system. If you put the heels down and lift the tops of your feet up, kick back on your heels, now we're in the parasympathetic part of our nervous system. So it matters how we stand. It matters how we shift our weight. It matters when our intention is, in contact with what is going on. So there's so many things we can do in a posture and so many things we can do with our feet. We have 9 acupoints in our feet. So when we're standing in nature and our feet are directly, no socks, no shoes, in contact with the ground, now we're getting into earthing and grounding science. Conversations for another day. So let's find our Wuji stance. I'm going to invite you to come to a standing position if you can. So I am going to step myself back. And you are welcome to, if you can see into the small screen where I'm at, maybe I can make a shift here. If I can stop sharing. And if you can find my screen and pin my video, you will be in the standing position. And we're going to start with our feet touching. You're going to find your left foot and hold on to a chair or something for support if your balance isn't fantastic. Lift your left foot up, step it over until you land in a hip width distance posture. So as the feet are hip width distance apart, let the knees have a soft bend, and that lets the hip crease have a soft bend. So we want this little bit of a bend, but we want to send the hips back slightly. The ears need to line up over the shoulders, need to line up over the hips. So it's an incredibly awkward position. But it's just like you sat down in a swing at a park that's made for a toddler where you kind of straddle, this nice little, I don't know, it looks like a belt that you sit in. And your palms are going to be like you're holding water balloons, but they're going to be right at the side of your hips. Your elbows are going to have a soft bend. You're going to take the tongue and you're going to gently rest it on the roof of the mouth behind the front 2 teeth. And you're going to imagine a string lifting your head straight up in the air. So we lengthen out the spinal column or the great central channel. You'll take a nice easy breath in, and then as you exhale, just let yourself sink a little, release any unnecessary tension, and just use the least amount of muscle contraction to hold this shape as possible. We're going to bring down our chi. So turn the palms to face the sky, and just like you're moving in water, start to float them out to the side and then up overhead. Take the gaze and look to the hands, and then as if you have 2 helium balloons underneath your palms, gently press the palms down. Your palms will be facing slightly towards you and slightly toward the earth. The hands are going to lower past the low belly, and we're going to do this again. So sweep the palms up, maybe let the knees straighten a little bit. Hands circle overhead. Press the palms down, let the knees sink a little bit. And we're going to do one more. Remember, tongue at roof of mouth. Inhale, lift the arms up, straighten the knees slightly. Exhale, sink the palms down, sink the knees down. And then as the hands go below the low belly, we've just settled our chi, moving our chi from the upper to the middle to the lower dantians or storage containers. We're going to go through project, protect, and absorb. And this is something that can be integral for cleansing yourself between patient care, so you don't feel like you have all the junk or the heavy stuff from a client before you move into the next one. So take your hands as if you're swimming, and your hands are going to swim around just behind your hips. And then like you're going to splash water, bring the palms up and let them circle around your ears. And then you're going to hold a sandwich. You're going to press the palms forward, palms face away. Then palms face the earth and drag the fingertips back towards you. Find those helium balloons and press the hands below the low belly. We repeat this again. So swim here. Splash the water around the ears. Hold on to a sandwich, thumbs point to the earth. Press that sandwich away. Turn the palms to face down, pull the fingers back towards you, and then press those helium balloons down. See if you can find the weight shifting in the feet to add. So swim, shift the weight forward, shift the weight backwards, splash the water around the ears, shift toward the toes, shift toward the heels. Find your sandwich and press it forward, palms down, pull it back. Lift the knees, straighten them a little, and then press down. 2 more rounds. Swim, shift forward, shifting back. Splash the water around the ears. Find your sandwich and press forward. Palms down, pull back. Lift the knees a little straight and then sink everything down. Again, see if you can put the tongue on the roof of the mouth. If any of this multitasking is too much, don't add it. Projecting, protecting, and absorbing. So let the hands go below the low belly. And then you're going to bring your chi down 1 time. So circle the arms up, straighten the knees a little, press the hands down, sink the knees. You'll take these hands and you'll trace the hip crease, and you'll put your hands back in these side pockets. You're going to step your left foot in to meet the right foot. If you are a female, you're going to put your right hand on the low belly. If you're a male, it'll be your left. The other hand will go on top, and the top thumb will tuck underneath the bottom thumb. And it's here that you might soften the eyes. If you close the eyes, you have to feel comfortable in your balance, but you want to let your chi settle. Settling your chi is like shaking a snow globe and then waiting for the particles inside to settle. So you stay in this position until you feel your chi is settled. And then you can blink the eyes open, release the hands, step the feet apart. Females lift the left hand, palm open, males the right. The opposite hand makes a soft fist. The thumb will touch the outer middle index knuckle. The 2 will join together, and we bow forward. And that signals the end of a very short practice that has so much depth to it. And the intricacies with the pressure points, the alignment, it blows my mind every single time I practice. So I do hope you found some joy, some benefit, something that you haven't necessarily had before in this short bit of time we spent together. We have gone from practicing this empty state or this wuji posture into bringing down the chi, and the weight shifting, we just kind of threw in there. We didn't get into hugging the tree completely, but we got into my favorite, projecting, protecting, and absorbing, and that is so beneficial to our healthcare practice. And I want to thank you for your time. I do run, if you have any questions, please go ahead and reach out to me through the Be Well Therapies website. And we do have some Qigong instruction and video on our YouTube page for Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association. We filmed a bit, and that's on our YouTube page. So I thank you for your time. And
Thank you. That was wonderful.